I'm sure many of us are looking around this beautifully decorated sanctuary and wondering, is it Advent season already? It's lovely and exciting, but it snuck up on us. And I'm a little confused because I do look around and see Christmas, and then I look down at my stomach and I see Thanksgiving. Thursday's not even digested yet, and we are full-fledged Advent ready here. Advent, a season of waiting, of coming, of expecting. Goodbye, pilgrims. Hello, elves. Thank you for a solid afternoon nap, turkey. Rise and shine, here comes Santa Claus. If you don't already know this about me, I love Christmas. And everything about the season, I'm a bit of a traditionalist, and some may use the word Grinch, about when it is appropriate to enjoy Christmas decorations, music, movies, or cookies. The season of Christmas makes me a child again. And not all of you are that way, but I know some of you feel me. I can't pick a favorite Christmas song, but I love Andy Williams. And I love the song, "It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year." If you sing along while I read some of these lyrics, I will not be disappointed. As you should well know, I will not be joining you in singing. It's the most wonderful time of the year, with the kids jingle belling, and everyone telling you be of good cheer. It's the most wonderful time of the year. It's the happiest season of all. With those holiday greetings and gay happy meetings when friends come to call, it's the happiest season of all. There'll be parties for hosting, marshmallows for toasting, and caroling out in the snow. There'll be scary ghost stories and tales of the glories of Christmases long, long ago. It's the most wonderful time of the year. There'll be much mistletoeing, and hearts will be glowing when loved ones are near. It's the most wonderful time of the year. A song like that puts me in full Christmas spirit mode quickly. Combine that song with Mama's Christmas Cookies, the Santa Claus movie starring Tim Allen, and a well-lit Christmas tree, and I will go into a beautiful Christmas coma. The anticipation, the expectation, the excitement of the season is incomparable. Then we get older, and we get jobs, and we get families, and we get bills, and other joys of life. And as I've gotten older, though, the stress of this season has not come close to overshadowing my childish joy. But that stress is still there, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. Will I have enough time to put up decorations? Will we have enough money to buy all the presents we need to buy? Do I even know what to buy? Which family are we visiting? Or are we going to visit all of them? Why can't everyone just come to us? Wait, do we have enough room for everyone to eat at our house? When will I find time to make a Christmas meal? Or go shopping? Or spend quality time with my family? Or sit down for 10 seconds and just breathe? Christmas is nice in the movies and the storybooks. But in real life, Christmas is hectic and stressful. It can also be pleasant, joyous, and memorable when we approach this season with joyful expectation and then center our lives on the coming of Christ. This season is like no other on the calendar. This season is full of expectation, and with that, it will bring either stress or hope. Let us look to our scriptures, for that is where we will find hope. Jeremiah is a prophet of God who is called during a time of violence and deportation. Israel, still feeling the effects of the Assyrian Empire, leans on King Josiah, who does not put up with Assyrian policies or religious practices. He wants to bring Israel back to the days that God had intended, days outside of the influence of other countries and their religions. Jeremiah liked this king and everything that he was doing. But tragically, in 609 BC, King Josiah died in a risky military operation against Egypt. A few years later, Jeremiah begins speaking and writing down these words that we have in our Bible today. Jeremiah's voice was needed because a great king was lost. And another threat, the Babylonian Empire, was making its way around the Middle East. The Israelites needed hope, And Jeremiah was that voice for them. Jeremiah, functioning as a mouthpiece for God, says, a time is coming when a king from David's line will bring justice and righteousness in the house of Judah and Israel. This place where Judah and Jerusalem are safe will be called, the Lord is our righteousness. Upon hearing these words, many would remember their great king Josiah and assume this prophesied king would continue his work. This gave them hope. And they needed these words of hope because a few years later, in 597 BC, Babylon would enter Israel and exile a large number of Israelites. Then, 11 years later, Babylon would finish the job and Jerusalem would fall. The remaining Israelites would be exiled as Babylon established her kingdom. Jeremiah spoke hope, but shortly after, all anyone could see was despair. It's hard to remember God's promises when people are uprooted from their homes. We skip ahead over 600 years when Jesus, according to the Gospel of Luke, gives warning to his followers of what is to come. Immediately preceding our passage today, Jesus tells his disciples that Jerusalem will be trampled on by Gentiles. Now Jesus turns his attention to the fate of the whole world. There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. People will be in distress and confused about the roaring of the waves. People will faint at the thought of what is to come. This sounds really serious, but it's also quite vague. Distress among people, roaring waters, signs in the sky, none of this is very specific. After this, Jesus says, the Son of Man will appear in the clouds. Then when we see this, we will all stand and raise our heads, for our redemption, our rescue is near. What? Is this clear to any of you? Jesus, how about a metaphor to help us comprehend? Consider the fig tree. When you see the fig tree sprout leaves, you know that summer is near. This is something you understand and will be a clear sign for you, just like the signs leading up to my return. Just pay attention. I like this metaphor because trees sprout their leaves every spring and they lose them every fall. It's here for part of the year and gone the rest, just like Christmas. We get Christmas every year, then we move on knowing it will come back again. All we have to do is pay attention, and we'll see it coming. That's easy enough. One of my funniest memories involving my sister is when we were teenagers and were out to eat at a Mexican restaurant. And before you judge me, I already acknowledge I wasn't the best older brother. We were exiting the restaurant as we approached some glass doors. We've already entered through these doors, so there's no reason to assume my sister Ashley wouldn't have known they were there. She walked straight into the door, face first, and it was a really solid impact. She had braces at the time, and I remember this because her braces drew blood. She hit it so hard, and it left a really clear outline of her face on the glass. I think mom or dad checked on her after she did this. I'm not positive because at this point my brother and I we lost it. I mean, it was the kind of hands on your knees, barely hold yourself up, kind of lost it. It was hysterical. And yeah, it was really mean to laugh at her. But truthfully, she can laugh about it now. So what's the point of sharing this story other than, obviously, I need to care more as a brother? Ashley had been through many doors in her life. She had most recently been through the very doors with which she face planted. If someone would have told her to pay attention, she would have remembered the doors and used them properly. Sometimes we need to be reminded just to pay attention because we get so easily distracted. Jesus warns his disciples to be on guard because your hearts can easily be weighed down with dissipation, drunkenness, and the worries of this life. Later he says, be alert at all times. This is common sense. But Jesus says it because we so easily get distracted by the expectations that surround us and even this season. It makes sense that Jesus would single out dissipation, the squandering of one's money, energy, or resources, and drunkenness, hiding from the difficulties of life by numbing your senses. But I love that Jesus singles out the worries of this life. What a human thing to point out. The worries of this life, especially in the holiday season, consume us so quickly. There are expectations for everyone, and as we get older, that list grows larger. These expectations distract us from what we are to expect. The Christian people are to live their lives in hopeful expectation for the return of our King. During Advent, we focus our lives on the expectation of the Christ child who will alter the course of history. Jeremiah prophesied to God's people that the Messiah would come, even as Babylon was taking over their land. And Jesus told his followers to be on guard because one day he will return. That is our hope. That is our expectation. Today, on this first Sunday of Advent, we are acknowledging our expectations. As a Christian people, we anticipate the celebration of the birth of Jesus. We also anticipate the return of Christ when he will lead his people forever. As humans, we anticipate and admit the stresses of this season. We expect the expectations that people will have for us. And we take to heart Jesus' words about guarding our hearts from the worries of this life. If the worries of this life and all that is expected of you in this holiday season distracts you from the great expectation that makes this season so beautiful, you really aren't paying attention. I want to help you pay attention. Have I mentioned that I like Christmas? Especially how much I like Christmas music? Well, then you will know that I love our Advent theme this year, songs of expectation. Music is what sets the tone for me in the holiday season. Music can speak to us in many ways, and sometimes it has already spoken to us, and we missed it. O come, Emmanuel, and ransom captive Israel, that mourns in lonely exile here until the Son of God appears. How perfectly these words follow Jeremiah's words of hope and promise. O come, thou dayspring, come and cheer our spirits by thine advent here. Disperse the gloomy clouds of night, and death's dark shadows put to flight. O come, thou wisdom from on high, and order all things far and nigh. To us the path of knowledge show, and cause us in her ways to go. How perfectly these words follow the words of Jesus that call us to guard our hearts against the worries of this life. O come, desire of nations, bind all peoples in one heart and mind. Bid envy, strife, and quarrel cease. Fill all the world with heaven's peace. How perfectly these words fit within the Christian's expectation for the return of the Messiah. This Advent season, I invite you to name your expectations. I encourage you to hear the words of hope in Jeremiah and the words of caution in Luke, so to cause you to pay attention. Don't be distracted by the worries of this life, and don't let other people's expectations drown out the joy we have as we wait for Christ in hopeful expectation. If you don't know how to begin this Advent season, or how to get ahead of the stresses that ensue, may I suggest to you that you let the music move you. Christ promised to come again. So view the present through the promise and know Christ will come again.